Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Minding My Mental Health. Welcome again. We are so excited to have you here with us today. I'm just always really happy to have you guys. Today we are doing our Q&A. So you guys know what I want you to do. I want you to hashtag live if you are watching us live and let me know where you're watching from. Hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. And again, let me know where you're watching from. I'm actually going to do a little bit of social media outreach myself. I'm asking you to do the same thing. And what does that mean? I want you to tag your friends, tag your family members, share this to your story, share this to groups that you have permission to share. And when we say permission, meaning that you have a right, admin eligibility or anything like that, that you have a right to share to those groups, because we want to have a really amazing and educational and informative time today. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, I'm going to do my own social media outreach here and share this broadcast to a couple of groups that I um, am the admin for. If you have any questions, you already know this is our Q&A. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and send an inbox to me, and I will be happy to answer those questions live on the air. I have some questions that have already been submitted, so I will answer those questions. But again, at any point, if you feel the need, if you have a question, go ahead and shoot me an inbox. Or if you're comfortable with it, you can also put it into the chat. We would love to have your question in the chat. I can read it off and answer that question. If it's something that I am not able to answer at this time, I will do some research, find the resources for you, and get back with you. I don't claim to be all knowing, but I do have some expertise and some skills and some knowledge that I hope will help you guys as we're going to through this. Again, I want you to share. So wherever you are, if you are watching this, go ahead again and share this broadcast. I'm going to share it again to a couple um, more groups here. I'm going to share it to my story. I ask that you share it to your story. Stories are really a great way for us to get the word out. So I see a couple people. Again, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and first, I want to start with two announcements. I have two announcements. I'm really excited to announce them. First, this Friday night, this Saturday night, if you are not busy on April the 13th, I am hosting an old school coloring party. I'm really excited about that. What is an old school coloring party? Well, it's going to be virtual. All you have to do is get the link. I will actually put this link in the comment section here. Um, Click that link, and that link will take you to be able to register for the party. You will get the link to come in. You'll be able to download a coloring sheet, and we're going to color. We're going to have music. We're going to have good conversations. We're going to have a great time. And so I want to make sure that we are all relaxing. I notice within myself, I'm so busy sometimes, and it feels like sometimes we don't get the time to just sit down and do something that's calming and relaxing. And so that's what this party is all about. But this party is also a launch for my book. I have a coloring book. So this is one of the first products that we are releasing for our self-care product line. And why a coloring book? Because coloring has been proven to be a great healthy coping skill. Coloring has been a thing that lowers anxiety. It helps you with creativity. It helps you to have a sense of accomplishment. It just helps to relax you and to get your mind off of some of the stress in our day sometimes. And so it's a really great productive way to handle or have a break and have self-care. So if you're not doing anything on Saturday at 7 p.m., you make sure you click that link to register for our party. Again, we're going to have music, we're going to have coloring. Bring your color pencils, bring your crayons, bring your markers, all of that good stuff. Even if you want to cut it out and put it have a backdrop and have construction paper and go all the way old school, you can do that. Okay, so make sure you register for the party. Also, you can get my book on Amazon. It's called Courageous Coloring, Affirmations to Color. You can order that on Amazon today if you'd like. And I will ask you, if you order the book, I am asking that you, once you get it, you look through it, you enjoy it. I want you to give me a positive review on the book if you are enjoying it. Let me make sure I'm actually getting it in the camera well. So affirmations to color, see that again. Make sure you're ordering the book. Make sure you sign up for the party. We're going to have fun because we don't, as adults, allow ourselves to just sit back and relax and chill. And so we're going to have a chill, fun coloring party this Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So again, register for the party, register for the book, and I look forward to hearing and seeing you guys at the coloring party that we're going to have. I see a couple people tagging. Continue to tag, continue to share, continue to get the word out about the broadcast. So again, thank you so much. So let's get into some of these questions, right? So, I just thought about it. I need to tag somebody who wanted to make sure that they are hearing this broadcast. So let me do that because I don't want them to miss it. They wanted to be a part of it, and I want them to be able to be a part of the broadcast. And so let me tag her so that I don't forget. See, okay. There we go. And she's tagged. Okay. So the first question was, I actually made a post and it was about creating a support system for yourself. And what I've learned is that as children, we kind of have our friendship group, and we do that, and it's kind of easy because we're all in the classrooms together. Even in college, our friendships, my friendships from college, yes, I had friends that didn't always live in the same dorm with me, but the people that I was closest to were the people that I was in a dorm with. We later moved out and became roommates off campus, that kind of stuff, right? And so when you're in college, when you're in high school and elementary, we have classes and events and activities that kind of force us, right, almost to have a little ecosystem where we can develop friendships. But when you're an adult, sometimes it's not always as easy to create and develop a support system, especially if you move, if your job takes you to a new city. A lot of people are going, as an adult, I don't really know how to navigate this friendship space or how to create a healthy support system. Or sometimes we're relying on family to do things, and our family is not emotionally capable to do those things that we need from them. And so the question was, how do you build healthy, positive relationships and to create a healthy, strong support system? So I want to go through some ways to build. Again, I want to remind you, if you have questions, feel free to send them to my inbox, and I will be glad to answer those questions for you during our live session. So this question is, what are some tips to how to effectively create a healthy support system? So the first thing I would say is actually release the idea that everybody in your support system has to be all things or has to be all encompassing. What do I mean? If you say, well, my mom is a part of my support system, you have to say, what are my mother's strengths and how can she be a part of my support system? What are the strengths of my neighbor and how can they be a part of my support system? All too often, what I found is that what we will do is we think one person has to be everything, right? So we think if I say my mom is part of my support system, she should be able to give me advice about relationships. She should be able to give me financial advice. She should be able to take care of my children. She should be able to do all of these things, when sometimes we are putting unrealistic expectations onto people. And then we get discouraged or disappointed because they did not have the capacity or the knowledge or the skill base to be an expert in that area, right? And so it's really important that we allow people to operate in their strengths and in their gifts so that we can build a support system and not expect everything from one or two people. So for an example, you may have your sister in your support system and you 100% trust her to watch your children and to take care of them as she would take care of her own children and to watch them like you. Your sister may not be a very good person for you to take financial advice from. So though she is in your support system, you may have to have someone else that you can rely on for financial advice or financial instruction. So both people would need to be in your support system. When you're building a support system, you want to look for ways that you can pull strengths from other people, right? And so that's really important. Again, you want to make sure that your support system includes people that you can trust in various areas of your life. Okay. The first tip, though, I would say is to be friendly. And I know this sounds super simple, but it really is important. You have, in order to build a support system, especially if you're going into a new city or a new job, new area, you have to actually be friendly and be kind to other people, right? Take time to get to know people. Take time um, to actually ask people about how their day is going and actually care about their response, not just say, how you doing? And then when they start talking, you zone out. You actually have to build relationships through connecting with them on a very genuine level. Ask them how they are doing. Listen to what they're saying and give them real undivided attention. So the first thing is to be friendly and to actually spend time connecting to people. Go places. Number two would be, I would say, go places where people have similar values or interest as you, right? So many times when I moved to Georgia from Arkansas, I had a child who was just turning 3 years old at the time. I knew I needed to build a support system. I knew people in the area, but almost everybody I knew lived at least an hour away from me. I needed to build a support system. So what did I do? I went to a place where I could find people that had similar values as me, right? So I joined a church. Not only did I join a church, I actually got involved with the church. So one of the things you can do is to get involved in volunteer activities or religious organizations or activities, or be a part of groups or organizations that you are interested in. You share common values or common belief systems, common interest, and actually get involved, because there are a lot of people and it was considered, probably it would have been considered a mega church. But what did I do to actually build relationships in a quote unquote mega church? I got involved. I sang on the praise team. I took my child, was involved in the activities with the children's ministry. I went in and I did the classes. Get involved in things, and that way people begin to know you and you begin to build relationships. And that's where I started building relationships, where I could call people to help me if I needed it. And also I had to be available to be able to help people when they needed my help as well. So again, be friendly, go places, and get involved with things, with people and activities with similar values or interests as you. Join religious activities or volunteer activities. If you say, I'm not a religious person, not really, that's not my thing, get involved in volunteer activities that you are genuinely interested in. Don't say, I'm going to go get involved in a political campaign and you don't fully support the candidate, or it's not something that you genuinely care about. Get involved in something that is authentic to you, because then you're going to have people that are more like-minded and you can connect with them. Let me know if this is making sense or if it's helping you at all, right? So begin to do those things. The last thing is to become self-aware. I've heard a lot of people have this problem. They actually have struggles with connecting because they're not very self-aware, meaning they get triggered by things. And but if you are self-aware, you can begin to know, these are certain things that trigger me, so I have to be mindful of how I react to certain things. I have to be mindful of my past trauma, if I have some. I have to be mindful of my past issues that I may bring into things. If I'm really guarded with other people, it's going to be hard for me to build a support system. So I need to work through those things. So not just be self-aware, but be willing to work on those things as you develop self-awareness. I hope that makes sense. But again, you want to not only be just having the self-awareness. I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were talking about how they had a level of self-awareness, but they always just identified it as, that's just me. So they knew that they had these tendencies to do things that may be offensive or may come across a certain way, but they just internalized it and said, that's just me. They did not realize that self-awareness was just the first step. After learning that these are my tendencies that could come across a certain way, they had to also learn how to deal with them and how to be effective in our society, right? And so being self-aware and doing the work of self-improvement, there are so many books, there are so many counselors and coaches and programs out there to help you to develop in self-improvement. So don't take that opportunity lightly. Take time to read a book about interacting with people. Improve your social and emotional intelligence. Do those things that help you to actually be able to be a healthy individual in your interaction. So that's the first thing. And so I think that that's where I would start when we're talking about building a support system, getting out there, creating those relationships, but also be mindful as you are meeting people and learning about people. Be mindful or be aware, I guess, of what you're seeing. So just because you join a church or an organization, if you start to see, hey, these people are showing me signs that they don't have integrity, that don't try to connect with people that you know is just going to be a burden for you, right? So many times, if there is dysfunction in our family of origin, and when I say family of origin, I just mean the family that you were born into. If there is a lot of dysfunction, we will go out and recreate that dysfunction in new relationships. So you want to look and see, are these relationships that are healthy? Do these people support me? Are they encouraging? Are they again, people of character? They do what they say they're going to do. They're not belittling, all of those things. You want to also make sure that you are aware of how you're going to be treated in those spaces. Okay, so that was the first question. How do we build an effective, healthy support system? And again, hopefully that answers your question. Let me know again if you have questions. You can put those in the comment section or send them. I'm going to make sure I try to keep my chat open so I can see anything if you guys have questions. The next question was, why are women more likely to be diagnosed with anxiety, depression, childhood trauma rather than ADHD? Great question. Um, it says, I found that this is something that I see happening way too often. So the truth is, boys are definitely diagnosed with ADHD way more often than girls are diagnosed with ADHD. Some of the reason is because of the way ADHD can present differently in boys and girls, right? So boys often, and of course, we're saying often, this is not an absolute. You can have girls that show some of the same tendencies, but even when a girl shows the tendencies of a boy, they would typically chalk that up to oh, she's a quote unquote tomboy, or they may even chalk that up to she's going through different things, right? So they may assign it a different meaning for it. But again, sometimes with boys, their ADHD symptoms appear to be more disruptive in school environments, and because of that, the school is more likely, or the teachers are more likely, to make a recommendation for testing. They get in trouble more often, and so parents have to take them to get diagnosed more often. So boys with ADHD tend to be more impulsive, hyperactive than their peers. They have a difficulty concentrating, but again, they may be more disruptive because they are hyperactive, they are impulsive. So where the girl who has ADHD may be sitting there and she may also not be paying attention, but she's going to do it typically more quietly. So she may zone out, right? She may appear to be withdrawn. She may just sit there quietly and literally not have heard anything that the teacher said. But because she's quiet, she's not disruptive, it's not always noticed. So basically, a lot of times when boys have symptoms of ADHD, it's more disruptive and impulsive. And with girls, when they have ADHD, oftentimes it is more the inattentive type. And so it gets overlooked. It's often diagnosed, if people do recognize some of the behavior, it's often misdiagnosed or diagnosed differently, because they'll say, oh, she's really withdrawn, she's really shy, she's really quiet, she doesn't pay attention. They put that under the category oftentimes of anxiety, because those symptoms can look the same. Also, if you've experienced trauma, some of those symptoms can look the same. So it's really interesting. When you're diagnosing, understand that you could take a child to four different practitioners, and they may all give your child a different diagnosis. Um, but it is important that you go and you say, okay, whatever diagnosis they're using, it's okay, especially if you're talking about a child, or even yourself as an adult. You could say, okay, what are you basing that diagnosis on? What criteria are you seeing? Because in order to give or to receive a diagnosis, there are specific criteria that a person must meet. So, for example, with ADHD, we don't typically just go, oh, I just saw them jump up and touch the floor in the middle of class, so they must have ADHD. That's one behavior. That impulsivity is not enough for a full diagnosis. You have to meet a certain number of the criteria to meet it. And so if you are wondering if your child or whatever has ADHD and it's misdiagnosed, or it's possibly in the wrong category, you can say, what is the diagnosis and how did you come up with that? How many things did they hit for you to make that decision to diagnose with that? Okay. The question was, are the symptoms that's similar? Yes, some of the symptoms actually can be very, very similar when you're talking about ADHD, when you're talking about depression, anxiety. Again, irritability can show up. I mean, even depression is going to show up differently in men and women oftentimes. So depression in a woman may show up with her crying and being very isolated. Well, with men, it may show up more as anger, right? It may be the exact same feeling, but it's going to be expressed differently because of the way our society has socialized. Girls are socialized differently than boys. And so oftentimes, due to the socialization, girls tend to be more inward, internal. Boys oftentimes are often what am I trying? More expressive in their disruption and impulsivity. And again, if you see a girl with those behaviors, they may also attribute that to different things as well. So that's probably what I would say is one of the reasons why that happens. I do want to go over some of the symptoms. If you're thinking that your child, girl, may have some ADHD symptoms, I want to go over some of those and how it looks differently for girls. Girls are often they withdraw more. They may cry more easily. They will daydream. Again, they will literally sit there and be zoned out and not causing any problems. So again, really easy to overlook. If you have a class full of disruption and you have a kid that's sitting there, that kid is you're going, yes, at least that's one child I don't have to worry about. And so they oftentimes get overlooked. Difficulty maintaining focus, easily distracted, maybe disorganized or messy. They may be forgetful, really sensitive to different fabrics and different things, noises, emotions. They're really sensitive to those things. Hyper active as far as talking or having a lot of energy. That can be still a symptom of in girls as well. But again, sometimes it's not. It doesn't show up the same way. Excessive talking. So if you have a lot of little girls that are like, oh, she talks a lot, that could be a symptom. They may seem shy. They seem to get upset really easily. Poor time management, often late. Make careless decisions because they're not paying attention. So some of these are symptoms you're going to see with the boys as well. But there's subtle differences in how they show up for boys. And again, I hope that answers your question for why you may be seeing a difference in the diagnosis with boys and girls. Another question we have, why do women get written off when it comes to mental health? I think that's a really good question as well. One reason that women are often minimized is because you have to think about psychology itself. They used to diagnose women with hysteria disorder, which was just removed from the DSM, I think in the 80s, maybe. And that literally could be diagnosed. A woman could be diagnosed with that because she's a bit feeling angry. A woman could be diagnosed with that because she has specific sexual desires, or maybe she doesn't have specific sexual desires. A woman could be diagnosed with that because she's just upset and overwhelmed, rather than saying, hey, if she says, hey, I am struggling because my husband is gone all day and I have 5 or 6 kids. And by the time he gets home, I am overwhelmed with trying to keep up with the schoolwork and da da da. So what they start doing when wives would say something to their husband, that if they didn't have the emotional intelligence, they go, let's take them to the doctor, and they were diagnosed with hysteria. And so that's partially ingrained in our medical system, unfortunately. It wasn't even very long ago that when women received certain diagnoses, they only told their husband. And the husband's responsibility, if he wanted to, was to tell the wife what the diagnosis was, because he was considered the decision maker over her care. So again, a lot of times this is ingrained in our medical system, that women's voices are not heard, they're not appreciated, they're not fully accepted when we're talking about what's going on, which is why I am such an advocate for women to advocate for themselves or advocate for what you're saying. Doctors will oftentimes come in and you say, this is going on. They go, oh, that's nothing. Well, as a person who is experiencing it, or if it's your family member, you have to go, no, 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 no. I am not going to allow you to just dismiss that. We need to have more tests. We have to do this. I was watching, I'm trying to remember if it was on some social media platform, but basically this couple found out they saw some things within their child that they were concerned about, and so they took them in, and basically they said, hey, this isn't a big deal, given the fact that your child is an African American. It's just really not that big of a deal. And these parents just kept being persistent. They was like, that we're not going to just accept that because they're African American, this is the norm, we're going to keep on. And they kept on, and then they were able to get more testing. the more testing led to an early diagnosis of something that was actually a real thing. So even though there may be doctors out there that dismiss your concerns, that dismiss your whatever, don't stop saying it. And if you need to find a new doctor, do that. But you want to make sure you advocate for yourself and go to somebody who will value your voice, who will value your opinion, and listen to what you have to say. Make sure you are doing that, because again, I think that's super important. Okay. Let's see. What's the other question? The other question was, are women really good at masking behaviors? Yes, sometimes we can be good at masking our symptoms and stuff like that. But for the most part, I find that it's not a matter of masking, it's a matter of us not advocating. And so we have to say, the doctor tried to dismiss me, but I'm not going, basically, I'm not going down without a fight. Okay. Another question, I'm checking here to see if we have any coming in my inbox. I don't so far. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. This next question says, "How do you deal with people who talk negatively about you because you place boundaries on specific relationships?" And so this question came from someone, and they gave me a little bit of backstory. And basically, their parents display a lot of really unhealthy behavior, and so they had to set some really some strong boundaries with their parents, and they're getting backlash or pushback from other family members who or community members who say things like, "That's your mom, that's your dad, you only get one mom, you only get one dad, blood is thicker than water, family over everything." And so they were getting a lot of pushback because they're saying that people are basically making them feel bad or feel guilty because they have had to set a pretty stern or strict boundary with parents. So here's what I would say: the world operates with a lot of shoulds. And what are shoulds? Shoulds are things that we assume that people should do, right? And so we say a child should honor their parents, a child should do this with their parents. And I agree, a child should honor their parents. But sometimes the best way to honor a parent, especially if they are not healthy, is to actually set the boundary and not be around them. Because sometimes there are parents who are absolutely not healthy. Sometimes it may be your own child. I've seen situations where the child is very unhealthy and very, for lack of a better word, toxic. And so because of that, those parents may have to set those boundaries and say, "You cannot stay here." And you'll get pushback from that. But that's your child. How can you have them out on the street? How can you do this? But if you have a child who is also not respecting your boundaries, who is also causing you a lot of mental stress and strain because they won't um, abide by your guidelines in your house, or they are being manipulative, or they are taking advantage of you, or any of those things, you have a right to put the boundary up. Now, this question is, how do you deal with the backlash from that? And what I would say is, you can do that without being dishonorable towards those people. You don't have to tell all the business. You don't have to say, "Well, let me tell you why I won't let so and so stay with me because they did that." You don't have to air the dirty laundry. What you can do is say, "I have found that it is not healthy for me and this person to live together, or to have this type of relationship or this type of contact. And I feel justified in my behavior." Now, what people often do is that if they have a healthy relationship with their mother, they assume everyone has kind of that same feel, right? So I have a wonderful relationship with my mother. And so if my mom particularly needed something, I'm probably going to do whatever I can to try to help her. However, there are moms out there that are very unhealthy, right? And so if it were a different situation, I may not have to justify that. You don't have to justify it, right? And so I think that's the key to remember. You don't have to justify it to anything, and recognize that your parents may try to shift the narrative, or your family member may try to shift the narrative. You know your truth, and it's important that you stand in your truth, and you don't have to bash that family member to do that. You can simply say, "Hey, we all have boundaries, we all have expectations, and this is what I think is best for me and my family." And that's okay. Other people may not understand it. That's okay. You have to be okay with everybody not understanding your decision making. And I think that's where the maturity comes in. You have to be okay with, again, everybody not fully understanding. Do we have any more questions? I don't see y'all. I see y'all here. Excuse me. Let me see if there are any comments or anything in the comment section. I'm not seeing any questions in my inbox, so I wanted to make sure we are still good. So one of the questions, one of the next question we have here is, how do you guys know that I do the Wholeness Path, which is a 6-month program for women, specifically, typically it's Christian women, but Christian women who are ready to prepare their hearts for love. And one of the questions that has come up as through teaching that and through posting about those things is, how do you know when you are when you are when you're not ready for dating, and or you're not ready for I guess, yeah, that dating scene, right? One of those things is that you are so guarded, that you are thinking the worst about everybody, right? And so sometimes we go into situations and we are already thinking very negative things about men in general, about um, all men are dogs, all men cheat. If you have a mentality that says all women are this way, or all men are this way, or everybody, there's still some stuff that needs to be worked out there. Another thing is, again, if you feel like you cannot trust anybody, and I don't mean you just trust everybody that you go on a date with, but if you feel like you can't trust anyone, there's probably some self-work that needs to be done. If you are still feeling super guilty and holding yourself, um, I guess, punishing yourself for past relationships mistakes, there is still some forgiveness and healing that needs to take place. Or if you're still very angry and bitter because of some past things, there's still some work to be done with this. If you project those past experiences onto other people and you say, because this happened to me one time or 3 times or 2 times, that I know it's going to happen every time, again, there's healing that needs to take place. And so it's okay for you to say, hey, I desire something, but I'm not ready for it. And I think that is the key. I desire something, but I'm not ready for it. It's important that as we mature and grow up, that we understand our desire for something doesn't necessarily mean that we are actually prepared for that thing, right? So when we say, are you ready? Are you ready to be so and so? Well, there are plenty of people who have children who were not ready, or they maybe wanted them, but when you got them, you went, I did not know that I had a lot of self-work to do. Relationships reveal a lot about us. Even, I was having a conversation just last night with my husband, and we were talking about, you actually can be whole and get in a relationship and still have issues. You can be in a emotionally mature place and still get in a relationship and still have things that annoy you about your partner that you still have to work through, because you're two different people. And so it's important that we work through some things that we have to deal with. Let me know. I see, again, a couple people jumping on. Let me know if you have any more questions. I'm looking here. I'm looking down because I'm looking at my chat. I've answered all of the pre-submitted questions, but I want to make sure that if anyone has any questions on here that they want to ask, on the live, or if you want to submit it to my inbox, you can do that. If you have questions, I want to give us time. While I wait for that, I'm going to give another plug for my coloring party on Saturday night at 7 p.m. You don't have to pay anything. All you have to do is register with your email. You will get a link to get our Zoom. You can download a coloring page that we're all going to be coloring together. And it is to launch my coloring book, Courageous Coloring, which can be purchased through Amazon. You can go to Amazon and type in Courageous Coloring, order the book, leave us a positive review. And I hope you enjoy it. So again, I want to make sure that we are taking time to take care of ourselves. And so many times, this is one of the first products we are releasing in our self-care line. We're going to be releasing some other products, but this was the first one, and we're really excited about that. So that's my little mid broadcast promo. Do you have any questions out there? I'm seeing, hey Barbara, thanks for tagging people. If you have any questions as we're coming in, these questions don't necessarily have to be about a specific thing. They can be about various things, because mental health really does encompass so much. It encompasses our relationships, it encompasses even our physical health. Our mental health impacts our physical health. And so it's really important that we address all those types of things. All right. I don't see any additional questions. Got a question. What happens if I don't believe in divorce, but we're having a lot of problems, but my partner won't go to counseling? This is actually pretty common. What happens if you don't believe in divorce? You're having a lot of problems, and your partner will not go to counseling. I tell people all the time, go to counseling by yourself. Why? Because you still need to learn how to deal with um, how your partner is interacting with you. You may need to learn how to deal with your own emotions and how to process those things. Also, I've had people to come in, and I'm not trying to get people divorced. Okay, so let me just put that out there. But what will happen oftentimes is people will actually come in, and they'll say, my partner wouldn't come in with me, so I decided to do individual work. But through doing that individual work, they actually realize that they do want to get a divorce. On the flip side, sometimes they come in and do their individual work, and they see that the work on themselves had a positive change on their relationship overall. And so that, because their partner started to see their growth and their change, their partner actually became open to working on a relationship in a way that they were not open before. And so I always encourage people to do the thing that you actually have control over. Most of the time, we get really frustrated because we are focused on trying to change a situation in a way that we don't have control. So you're saying, I can't work on anything unless so and so does it. Well, you can work on you. You can work on you. And then from a more healed place, from a healthier place, you can make different decisions, which will in turn impact the relationship. If you've taken any type of family counseling models or learned anything about family counseling models, it is very common for them to talk about how if you change one part of the system, the entire system changes. If you change one part, because a family is a system, if you change one part of that system, the whole unit has no choice but to change. Now, so again, if you change something, the unit is going to change. You may change what you accept, and you no longer accept certain things. And so maybe you've accepted your partner talking crazy to you. And now that you've gone to counseling and you've started to build your confidence and self-esteem, you say, I'm not going to accept that. Well, that's going to change the dynamic and the interaction of the relationship. Or maybe the way you responded was harsh, and the way you listened, or the way you responded was critical. And as you begin to develop your own self-awareness and skills and knowledge base, again, you change that, and so other people are more open to you. So I would always say, don't focus on the area that you cannot control. Focus on the thing that you can control, which is your behavior and your reactions. And so I would say, go to counseling yourself to gain that self-awareness, to gain those additional skills, to gain that knowledge, so that you're going to either accept less of the mess, or you are going to improve, and the whole system going to improve. And sometimes it's both. So here's what happens in situations where there is like addiction, for example. Oftentimes, families have learned how to deal with a person based on their addiction, right? Their addictive behaviors. So if a dad comes in and he's always drunk and he yells, when he comes in, he yells for about 30 minutes, and then he passes out on the couch. Well, the family now knows how to deal with that. They know, okay, about 30, give it 30 minutes, dad's going to do this, and then he's going to be done, and we don't have to deal with him. Well, what if he stops drinking? That's a positive change. And you would think that the family welcomes that, except now that he's no longer drinking, they don't know how to interact with him when he's asking questions about why they're doing certain things. They don't know how to interact with him. And so oftentimes family will try to make you go back to the way that you were, even if the way that you were was unhealthy. Okay, because they don't know how to deal with the new changes in you. So that's just an example of how changing one part of the unit will change the entire unit. But if you stay healthy, or you stay committed to your growth, I guess I should say that if you stay committed to your growth, they are either going to say, oh, wow, we need to change and get on board with this, or we're going to make some different decisions overall. So changing yourself, I think, is the best thing you can do when it comes to talking about working on a situation or working on yourself, working on a relationship. If you're not willing to leave, if you are willing to leave, that's a different decision. And if you're dating, I know that that question was for someone who's married and doesn't believe in divorce. If you are dating, don't stay in a place that's not healthy. Don't just keep going. It's going to change. Marriage doesn't make it change. Marriage does not make it change. In fact, put that in the comment section. Marriage does not make it change. So many times people think, oh, it's going to get better once we're married, once we're settled. Children don't make it better. And children are a blessing from the Lord. However, having children to make a relationship work does not tend to have the effect that many people think it will. Yes, they may love the children and they may, desire to be a great parent and still not know how to be a great spouse for you. So make sure that you are understanding that you have to do your own self work for yourself. Again, any comments or questions? I'm looking here just to see if I have any more questions that's coming in. I'm not seeing anything. I don't see any comments. Did I miss anything in the comment section over here? I don't see any comments that I missed. Let's see here. I'm just going to double check. Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't see any more questions. So if you guys don't have any questions or comments, I'm going to go ahead and probably end this broadcast a little sooner because we didn't have a lot of questions submitted. I hope we answered all of the questions that people did have and had pre-submitted. They were really good questions. I appreciate everybody for joining us. Last plug, make sure you go out and order the book from Amazon, Courageous Coloring, Affirmations to Color, and sign up for the party for the coloring party on Saturday night at 7 p.m. I'm looking forward to it. It's not gonna be crazy. It's not gonna be wild. It's gonna be a chill time for us to relax and get back to doing things that we enjoy. And I think coloring is one of a great ways. So make sure after you get off this broadcast, you go to Amazon. Let me show y'all some of the images. So again, these is affirmations to color. So you have affirmations with really beautiful pictures. Here's one of my favorites. I soar above. So these are, again, affirmations, but they have really beautiful affirmations with color, with pictures to go along with that. So make sure you order your book. Make sure you register for the coloring party. And I will see you guys next week right here on Minding My Mental Health every Thursday at 12 p.m. Hope to see you back next week. Tag a friend, share this, even though it's over. Go ahead and share it so people can go back and catch the replay. Thank you guys so much. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.